Oh, brilliant. Okay. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Heather. Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Hi, Denise, Philippe, Gosha, Heather, Yoko, Natalia, Nick, Oscar, Prabhata. Sorry, I'm very bad at pronouncing these names. Priyanka. That's great. So we'll actually get started, and then anyone who joins a little bit later can always catch up on the recording. So this is being recorded, so it will be available on the replay afterwards. So as you know, my name is Carmel Granahan, and I'm the founder of Unify Success. And Unify Success is a proactive customer success training and consultancy business, specifically for the SaaS industry, because that's where I have all my experience. So to kickstart the session, I'd just like people in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, just let me know where you're all from. I'm from Ireland, as you might be able to hear in my voice. I'm from a place called Ballina in the west of Ireland. Our claim to fame is that Joe Biden recently was here. Yeah, hopefully that's going to kickstart our tourist season. Great. So we've got Nick from London. We've got Oscar from Cape Town. Hello to you down there. North California. From Ghana. Amazing, but living in California. Amazing. I'd say the weather is nice and hot there, Denise. Sandyford in Dublin, great. Always to see great to see another local. Galway's finest, Gosha. Belfast, brilliant. Okay, well, to kickstart today's session, I'm pleased to. Hi, Kathy from Dublin. So I'm pleased to let you know that you've come to the right place. If you want to learn the 3 secrets to customer success. And so the secret number 1 that we're going to talk about is why you do not need to show all of your product features during customer onboarding. The second secret, which you may have seen me mention on my promotions, was how you can reduce churn in your SaaS business by doing this one simple thing. And then the third secret is you'll be shocked when I show you how you can 5x your customer reviews online. So these are the 3 areas that we're going to cover today. So who's excited to learn more? If you are, just type me in the chat window, and we're going to dive right in. My goal for you on this webinar is to show you how to retain your customers faster, smarter, and build relationships, better relationships than ever before. So a quick overview about me. As I said, I'm Carmel Granahan. I was that first customer success hire in a sales startup, CRM startup. And a poignant moment I do remember. So it was early days in the startup. And I remember actually feeling a little bit of burnout. And this was actually from doing lots of one-to-one product demos. So I was going from like one product demo to the next, And some of the demos were actually taking like an hour and a half. There were very feature heavy demos. So my customers I was chatting to were always comparing features. So they were like, this competitor can do this, can you do that? And it was a very much feature focused conversation. And it wasn't until one day actually that our CEO was in the office, and I had just got off, like I'd say, my 5th demo of the day, and I let out like this big sigh, And he came over to me and he said, like, oh, how did everything go today? And I had said that was the 5th one. And it was at that moment the penny dropped. And he said to me, why don't you do webinars? If you're repeating yourself constantly, why don't you do webinars? You can talk to more people at the same time. And so that totally transformed everything for me. And when I went doing like one-to-many product demos, what changed as well was that I suddenly started to think about how I was doing these demos. So rather than just kind of running through the drill, on every feature, check out this, check out that, I realized that actually you don't need to show all of your product features. And this is why. It overwhelms the customer. So they're like being dragged from one part of the screen to the next, and it's information overload. And they're looking maybe at your system for the first time, or maybe they've played around with it themselves. So you're overwhelming them by demoing everything you have in your software. It actually makes your product, which you might have a very simple product, it might make it look very complicated actually. And you don't want to do that. So if you're saying, then we can do this and we can do that and then we can do this, you're jumping around a lot and you're overselling your product, and probably making it sound more complicated than what it is. And you're actually, this is probably the most important one as well, is that you're not highlighting any value. So if you're focusing on so many different things in the one demo, nothing is standing out. So the customer goes away from that and say, okay, so what can the product do? They probably couldn't answer you. So just in the chat window, have you, or do you do one-to-one product demos or one-to-many product demos? So let me know in the chat window. And just what has your experience been? Both. Oscar does both. Great. Nicola, lots of one-to-ones, mostly one-to-ones. So it'll vary as well. Great. Nick said both. I like to focus on training rather than demoing. Brilliant, Danielle. You should be here. That's definitely the best point. So what we would recommend is that you focus on what to what to do to make sure that you what to do instead, rather than overwhelming, going through too many demos. So you need to do your research first. Do your research, whether it's on that one customer or you're demoing to 10 customers. You need to research your customer, find out who they are, and most importantly, what problems your customers have. So you should focus your demo around a particular problem or series of problems. So like, for example, in my previous role, it was all about, it was a CRM. And rather than demoing like this is how you got the contact into the CRM, we focused a lot around the action stream and taking action and keeping you organized. Because from doing our research, we found out that lots of people said they needed a CRM to help them stay organized. So that's where you need to kind of reframe your conversation. And a little thing I started to do towards the very end was I tried not to mention the word feature even in my demo. So I would, it's actually quite hard when you're doing a demo not to mention the word feature. But it's important to focus on solving the features that are your customers' main problems. And that's the most important thing. And then when you're doing, whether it's webinar or it's that one-to-one, encourage audience interaction. So, ask questions. You want to find out a little bit more about them. And I guess that was my initial hesitation from switching from the one-to-one to the one-to-many. When I was doing the one-to-one, I got to learn so much about the customer, because it was stop, start, a lot of it. And that's why, they used to go on for so long. So by encouraging audience interaction, now you can set up polls and everything, and I will definitely be doing more polls in my webinars going forward. But it's definitely worth your while to engage with your audience so that you keep their attention during your demo. The number one reason why SaaS products fail in the hands of the customer is because of low user adoption. And that is primarily linked back to customer onboarding. So like a poor customer onboarding experience is one of the key reasons. So this was me before in the early days. I was exhausted from doing one-to-one product demos. I was very much feature focused because that's all I knew. And I was kind of overselling because I was going way too deep on each feature. Fast forward to afterwards, I was much more focused on the customer problems, and that didn't happen overnight. That was a case of research, calling customers, getting to know them. You would need, if you're just going to start revamping your product demo now, I would recommend doing at least 20 calls. So checking in with at least 20 customers and ask them how you can, what problems they're looking to solve with your software. After I was doing shorter sessions, so imagine I was went from chatting to one, lots 5 maybe product demos a day to chatting to 25 people all in the 1 hour. So you can imagine it's much more efficient use of time. And I definitely had more audience engagement because I wasn't in autopilot. I was more starting, or sorry, I was more engaging. So I was stopping, asking the audience questions, trying to find out what problems they were solving. And then the next demo, I would get better. So yeah, so I guess that's kind of where I was, and where I was, and then where I've been, or where I am now, by very much focusing on the customer problems. So is there anything that you feel now from watching that demo, that do you feel that you're overwhelming your audience? How long does your demos take usually? So if you let me know in the chat window, how long does your demos currently take? Whether that's one-to-one or one-to-many. Now, if your general rule of thumb is, if you're doing enterprise, if you're selling an enterprise software, I understand that it might not be easy just to switch to doing one-to-many. But if you're selling a low-cost product, definitely the webinars are a great way to kind of kickstart and show a good, rounded, show your product in a well-rounded way to a larger group of people. So our colleagues do one-to-many webinars, usually 1 hour. Great. Yes, demos usually take up to 1 hour, 1 hour at least, 30 to 45 minutes. Very good, Carol. And what's the interaction like? What's the audience participation like? Whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many, do you know? Like it can vary, I guess, from session to session. So yeah, so that's onboarding is a really important, very responsive. That's great. Varies, not much, not too much unless it's a small group. Okay, I understand. So with customer onboarding, it is important not to over demo your features in order to let your product stand on its own 2 feet and let your customer see the true value. Remember, they need to see quick wins as well. Moving on to the second secret, and I guess this is part of the customer journey. And while you have lots of customer retention, you will of course get some churn as well. And I think the statistics show that typically in a small business, churn is anywhere between 3% and 7% is healthy, but ideally if you could keep it down to 3%, you're flying it. So does anyone know, before I reveal the one simple thing that you can do to help you reduce churn in your organization? Anyone want to say what that one simple thing they think it is? So what one simple thing can you do to reduce churn in your SaaS business? Success onboarding and QBRs. Great, Nick. Yeah, that's definitely successful. Yeah, that definitely adds to it. Track customer revenue. Yeah. The one simple thing, and if you are in a small business, that you can do to reduce churn in your organization, it is to ask your current customers why they are leaving. So in order for you to find out and to solve your churn problem in your organization, you need to kind of look back to go forward. And I think it was Bill Gates that actually said that your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. And so it is important to start drilling into why customers are leaving. And you can have a very lighthearted conversation about it. You call them, before you call them up, you should do your research, of course. And so just make sure that you check, do a customer 360. So check kind of what has been their experience with you. Have they been in touch with support? What was their onboarding like? Did they attend a webinar or a one-to-one demo? Did they do training with you? And what you will do by doing that, you will then start to see trends. So by picking up the phone, asking a customer that was your customer why they have left in a very polite way, you can word it like, hi, John, it's Carmel here from Unify Success. Thank you for being a customer in the past. Just to help us learn and improve, I'd love to know, what was your reasons for leaving or canceling? It's always good to learn from our past and present customers. And 9 times out of 10, you will get a very authentic, raw conversation. And you'll be able to hear by their tone, their sincerity. So like if they're frustrated, if they're annoyed, if they're actually sad to be leaving, sometimes it's things factors outside of their control. So just wondering at the moment, who actually tracks churn in your organization? So if somebody cancels, do you go back or do you, call them up and say, hi, John, it's Carmel here, just checking in. I can see you recently canceled. So who does that now in your organization? Is there a survey? Is there an automatic survey? And if there is a survey, do you analyze the results afterwards? So what do you do with the results of the survey? Anyone? Great. So churn stats update sent via Slack and pinged to the CSM. Okay, so the stats are being pinged, and is anybody doing anything about it though? So what happens after? So they're being pinged and Slack is busy, busy, busy. What happens then? No, it's a phone call as the enterprise clients. Brilliant, Nick. Okay, yeah, definitely for enterprise, you 100% need to be doing that. But if you don't have any kind of automated thing in place, you need to pick up the phone. So automatic surveys, someone else's, but I don't know what happens afterwards. Okay. The CSMs do this for their own customers, no survey, just a conversation. Okay, brilliant. Okay, great, Heather. And what do you do though after you have the conversation? So do you act on it? Do you collect all the information? Do you analyze it? NPS quarterly customers. Yes, each CSM is assigned to each churn customer, has to call the customer, email them, text them, or find out why. Brilliant. Okay, that sounds great. And I'm definitely a big advocate of that, because that's where the biggest learning is. But you need to go bigger than that. So after you find out, you picked up the phone, you've done the hard part, you need to then kind of log it. So you need to be able to see trends in why people are canceling. So the most frequent one is it's the number one reason why lots of customers, especially in small businesses, cancel, is because they just didn't use the product, and that's because they didn't see the value in your product. And that's where you need to kind of drill into it a little bit more with them. They outgrew your product, so maybe you're very specific feature set, and maybe they need a more rounded solution. A change in management or business requirements. So for this, you should, get in touch with them. Who is the new manager? What are their details? Would you introduce us? Try and get that warm introduction in there. Functionality missing. So this could be an easy one to fix. So if you're logging, if lots of people are saying that they want to send mass emails, for example, you need to find out, what is that one thing that they all want the application to do. If it didn't solve their problem, so what was their problem and why didn't you solve it? So again, lots of these things can actually go back to onboarding. Switch to a competitor. Again, you want to know why. Poor user experience. Again, that's not good. The business closed. So yes, years ago, actually, I was wondering what I had in here. This was a lot. I was just out of college, and I actually was selling pages on a website, and I was just cold calling lots of people. I don't think I would do it now. And cold calling, and I remember this company in Galway actually said to me, "Oh, we're actually closing down, basically to do not call again." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, and I hope, I wish you all the best." And how many people are losing their jobs and everything. And the guy didn't probably expect me to engage with him, but I did. Anyway, fast forward like 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, the company is still there. They weren't closing down. It was just a way to end the conversation very quickly. So this is that's a little bit different to, someone signed up their customer using your app than cold calling. But again, just, you can always verify it and just trying to make sure that it's not kind of an excuse. The product is too expensive or no budget. Like these two are a very tricky one, because they knew how much your product was on day one when they signed up. So therefore, maybe again, it goes back to the value. And then I guess the uncontrollable, which is the downturn in the economy. So, something like COVID, nobody saw that coming. So I just want to know in the chat window, so what is the most frequent reason why your customers churn? Or do you know what the most frequent reason is? And remember, depending on what option they choose, you still need to dig deeper and find out exactly what it is. So that they're quite generic. I know that you would know with your product what is the main reason why they're cancelling. Anyone? Product doesn't work as expected or issues dealing with support. Okay. Functionality missing. Okay. Cost and not using. Yes. So cost, it's all about the value. So if someone doesn't see, so like even if your product is $1, but if they're not using it, that's $1 wasted, you know, if they're not seeing how they can use it. And then for functionality missing, I think you definitely need to drill in and say, what is it that's missing? Bugs that can't be fixed. Yeah, that's a tough one for the customer success team. Because you're the front line, well, you're one of the front line, or you're the middleman. Performance and missing functionality. Okay, so I think when you are getting these type of, I guess, you know, challenges, and you're seeing them, it is important for you to actually bring them to the forefront. So not just let not just say, you know, functionality missing again, but you need to actually drill in and say, okay, well, 20 people actually have downgraded because of this reason. So what to do? So what should you do as a customer success manager? You need to find out what your current churn rate is. So you need what's measured can get changed or get managed. So find out what your current churn rate is. What's the curve? Is it going up or down? Understand. So you need to ask customers why they're leaving. You need to track the reasons so that you can identify the trends. Analyze and evaluate, so do a churn analysis so you can identify the key trends. Present your findings. So this is where, you know, you might decide to do this over a quarter, so over 3 months, and you look at all the churn reasons that you get, and then go to your senior management team or your product team and talk to them about it and see what can be solved, because chances are, if one person has told you, there's 10 others that are having the same issue at least. And then action. So it's all about taking action. There's no point having all this lovely data if there's no action being taken. So like assist the product team with creating an action plan to resolve the key issues. So for example, onboarding, product issues, performance issues can be very hard, you know, because a lot of infrastructure might need to be changed in order to improve the performance of your product. But if you're losing customers, you know, it could be part of the longer term strategy. Philippe mentioned security issues or lack of security certifications. Okay, yeah, it's not good. Yeah, and it's difficult. Like, it's not an easy role being the customer success manager, being the person that's meant to be there to show them value, and then they're telling you why they're not getting value, you know. It can be a very, very difficult conversation, but you do need to open up the lines of communication with them. So this is something that you could, you know, that if you need to highlight it, but churn has a direct impact on revenue, of course. You know, monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue, growth and expansion. It costs 5 times more to attract a new customer than to keep an existing one. And that's only approximately, I think it's actually higher, but that's kind of the statistic that's there a long time. So you should look after your current customers, and you hopefully will be able to expand them as they grow with you. And then the third thing is reputation. So you don't want people saying, oh, don't look at that application. It never works, or I have to wait 5 minutes before it loads, or, you know, so it is damaging overall. So it's not just that one customer that you're losing. It does affect lots of different things. So yeah, so that's churn. It's a big a big hairy gorilla. And it's one that it does need to be tackled. And if you don't have a churn playbook in your organization, it's definitely something that you need to kind of start to look at. There's huge revenue that can be, I suppose, recouped and saved, and, you know, it could be the reason why your company grows or why it doesn't if you solve that churn problem. So that's it on churn. And moving on to our final section of today's session is all about customer reviews and how you can grow that customer advocacy within your company. And again, it's doing something very simple. Remember, you don't have to beat your own drum if your customers are doing it for you. I heard the saying a few years ago, and it definitely like rang home with me. There's lots of merit to getting your customers to talk about you. So it's the unspoken, I guess, the unspoken value of customer reviews. And we're just going to dive just really quickly into kind of these are the reasons or the benefits that can give to your company. Builds credibility and trust. Adds a level of transparency. So, you know, it's not you saying it, it's actually somebody else, and they're completely generic. It adds an objective element or an objective opinion that is not coming directly from you. People tend to take advice from someone who has actually used the product rather than the people that make the product, because they're already experts. And it does provide valuable insights. And this is for both the new customer or the company itself. So when you get lots of reviews, you can start analyzing them and, you know, seeing, okay, lots of people love us because of, you know, our email, or love us because of our action stream or our calendar. So it does have lots and lots of merits, and word of mouth is still the number one form of marketing today, even in this world. So it's important to keep your online reviews fresh, keep them up to date, and keep them moving. So to answer your question, to answer the problem, how do you 5 times or 5x times your customer reviews? So what you need to do is you need to strike when the iron is hot. And this means that you focus on every positive interaction. So it's not just, you know, you feel like it today, you nearly need to build it in as a habit after every interaction, positive interaction that you have with your customers. The different places you can start looking. So even you're in customer success, you know, you mightn't be on the front line on support all the time, but you should be able to have access to the support application. Everybody on the team or within the company should be involved in asking for reviews. And so what I did in my previous role is that I implemented what's called #ask. And it's basically, no matter what the scenario is, if somebody has a really good experience, you ask them there and then, will they recommend you? And so you have like a sage response. You get comfortable with being uncomfortable and back to being comfortable again, asking people, and it becomes second nature. So even with surveys, real-time ones like, you know, the customer satisfaction survey, you know, act on those, act on net promoter score. I think a company I was chatting to recently, they said they actually stopped doing NPS because they didn't do anything afterwards. It took a load of data, they asked a load of questions, and then it just sat there. So especially for those positive ones, you need to act on those. Webinars, meetings, face-to-face, that's how you 5x times your customer reviews. But you need to just start and just do it. So again, it just needs a playbook or a process. And once you have that, you literally hit the ground running. It becomes a habit. So this was us before. We had a low number of reviews, no clear ask process in place. We didn't ask customers to review us. And now in 1 year alone, there was over 500% increase in reviews. So I think that actually showed you the value. The ask playbook was implemented, and there was a consistent flow of customers reviewing us. And it was really good morale for the company as well, because, you know, you would share those reviews with the other team. I think someone mentioned earlier that, you know, on Slack, you let people know about churn. So again, it's the same. You're boosting morale by asking people to review you. Let's get back there. So just a question here from Denise. So where should they leave the reviews, or do you ask them to tell? Yes, so that's a really good question. So Google is one. It's a really good one, and it helps with your rankings as well. But it depends. In the SaaS world, there's lots of like generic ones like G2 Crowd, Captera, SaaS Hub, SourceForge. There's lots of review sites, or even you might collect some for maybe updating your website. You might get, might start looking at doing some case studies. chatting to customers, or building customer stories. And it's you that when you're interacting with them, that's where you kind of start the ball rolling. So even it might start off as just a customer review on a review site like G2 Crowd, but then the next step is to turn that into a case study, depending on their level of enthusiasm and the value they're getting from your product. So that's today's session. Just a quick recap. Again, I'd like to thank you all so much for joining us. Let me know what you learned in the chat. Is there anything that you're going to implement after today's session? The secret number one is why you do not need to show all of your product features. And it's these top 3 reasons, not to overwhelm people, not to overcomplicate your product, and you're not highlighting any value by doing it either. You can reduce churning your SaaS by asking your current customers why they're leaving. And then once you do that, there's that whole process that you can then, that kicks into place afterwards. And the secret number 3 was about how to 5x times your customer review. And it's basically acting on every positive interaction. So your customer success, your support, don't just wait for your marketing team to say, we need some reviews. We need people telling us what they love about us. So does anyone have any questions? Anyone have any feedback? How did everything go? Does anyone want to learn more? So while we did cover a lot during that session, and I know we've gone a little bit over the 30 minutes, there's lots we didn't cover. So we didn't really talk about discovery, some techniques and tips on that, product adoption, what's involved in that process. So you have your onboarding, which is a huge important phase. Then your adoption, more about retention and expansion, and doing, why you need to do those QBRs in a more personal way. And, voice of customer programs. So customers really want to feel heard nowadays. It's not just a case of filling out a form and then moving on. And they do want to feel heard. So there's just some other topics that, that are really important along the customer journey as well. So if you'd like to book a game plan call, great. Thank you, Oscar. I'm glad you enjoyed it. If you'd like to, discuss this further in more details, I know here we could obviously talk on the chat, but if you want to have a one-to-one call with me, I offer a free 30-minute game plan call is what I'm calling it. And it is all about that game plan. So like action plan, taking action. So if you're tired of working in reactive mode, you feel like you're constantly burning out, you're kind of jumping constantly from one job to the next. You want to build stronger, more engaged relationships with your customers. You want to start showing your customer real value rather than, kind of taking them through the steps. And if you want to make a real difference to the growth of your small business, I'd be happy to talk you through that. So I'm opening up some spots for next week. 30-minute session. I'll actually just type let me escape out of this. I'm just going to add my calendar link. So if anyone wants to have a chat, just to chat about, what's going right in your organization, what's maybe not going as well as you'd like. Definitely feel free to get in touch. I posted my link there. I'll also give you a link, which I know lots of you joined me already on my LinkedIn. I'll post this here, so feel free to reach out there. That's where I share most of my content. My website is in production. It's almost done, thankfully. So while we book the game plan call, and then who should book it? So if you're a customer success manager in a small SaaS business, a customer success leader who wants to do better for yourself and your team, so get some processes in place. And if you're a founder or a CEO who wants to start doing customer success better, or even, start doing some customer success tasks along with support. So we all know how important support is for your customers, but it is even more important to take it to the next level. And that's where I can help you. So if anyone has any questions they want to chat about now, feel free to type in the chat window. I've posted my calendar, my Calendly link there if you want to book a call, and my LinkedIn, so you can engage with me there. If there's anything I can help anyone with, feel free just to reach out. I'll just put my email as well. And I'd just like to say thank you to everybody so much for joining me today. Philippe, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really do appreciate it. Keep an eye on my LinkedIn. I share lots more content there. And if you're looking to take your customer success to the next level, reach out to me and I can help you do that. So I'll be more than happy to help you. So thank you everyone for joining, and feel free to book that call and stay in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you everyone. Hope you have a great evening. Thank you, Gasha. Thank you, Heather.